Welcome back to another episode of the GridIron. It's been a whole week. I hope none of y'all missed me. Little changes in my lifestyle. I hope no one really notices about my wrist. But I'm here with my good friend Greg Potempa.
What's going on?
He's a little. Ooh.
Oh, there goes the mic on you, big guy.
Yeah, there
First
goes the
time?
mic on me. It does. This happened to me last year. I feel like someone else did this. I'm gonna blame it on someone else.
No, it's.
And they're really gonna.
The spirits are still around from Halloween.
I think it is.
That's
There
all
might
it
be
really is.
there might be a ghost in here. Greg, you want to help me out here, man?
Yeah, no,
Really,
I got you.
you're screwing me over.
I got you.
But
you talk over here. I'll do that.
this is ridiculous. I can't believe this just happened. But wow, this is has just been happening all too often for myself. How are we doing here, Greg?
Not too hot.
Uh-oh.
You might just have to hold it.
No, we can screw that in. I'm telling you. You just gotta get it in right. Just need it not be a Greg Potempa and screw it in, will ya? Lefty loosey, righty tighty.
Yeah, no, it's weird though.
Yeah, it is weird.
Yeah, you're better off just holding it, big guy.
Oh boy. Well, sorry, DeMarcus. I have some explaining to do. But I really feel like we just whatever.
I don't think you can get it.
All right. Well, the topic for today. I'm gonna take off my headphones because I really don't like them. Oh, great. This is just a struggle this morning. Well, now the reason I wanted to bring him in just because I know you love rugby and I love rugby and everyone loves rugby, and if you don't, you're lying yourself. I'm serious. You are lying to yourself. I mean, like, look at it. Most people nowadays, I mean, they love those physical sports. I mean, like, you look at the progression of UFC nowadays. I mean, it's just, it's becoming more of a commodity, I think. Just more violent, not violent sports, but more classic type sports. And I hate to make that comparison to the UFC as well, but let's bring it back more to rugby. The World Cup happens every 4 years, just like FIFA does. And I think this has been one of the craziest matchups. I mean, just because, we had in the preliminaries, we had South Africa, New Zealand, and that was possibly one of the greatest games we got to see in our lifetimes. I mean, and that's just some of the best rugby. And then in the final, you get to see Australia versus New Zealand. And just to see all these matchups, I mean, though they are regular to see them every single 4 years, what do you think? I mean, like, are you all that surprised that these teams had matched up? I mean, I'm not, but
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised at all. But I'm actually, I'm a little upset that Argentina didn't beat Australia. Just for the sake of seeing someone new in there. Considering this is the first time Argentina's made it this far, I think. And they actually played really well. They really played their hearts out. And even though they lost in the third place game to South Africa, they still played really, really well. But, we keep seeing the same teams over and over again. And, I mean, like, yeah, it gets old, but it only reminds you of how good these teams actually are.
No, really, though.
New Zealand, if you watch New Zealand play, they were flawless.
Oh, no, absolutely
Australia.
flawless.
They were absolutely flawless. They didn't, any mistake they made, they didn't. They just didn't make it. Compared to Australia had so many opportunities, but just lost them due to knock-ons. Lost them due to stupid forward passes or something.
And that's
like
the thing that I think it makes New Zealand such a great team. It's just that, they've done such repetition to the point where it's just like, all right, these guys are beyond gnarly. Like, it's just phenomenal rugby. And, like, rugby is such a perfected sport, I feel like. It's like it's like baseball. You can really bring it down to a scientific T. And just seeing them play, unreal. Unreal rugby. And I guess more my question is, I mean, what would you in an ideal world want to see just to make it a really good, like, matchup? I mean, like, how, like, the Mets and Kansas City, it always has to be a good game. It can never be a dominating game. And I'm sure a lot of Mets fans agree with that. They just want to see a dominating game. And, I mean, like, I feel like I had the same sense with New Zealand. I really wanted to see more of a close match than just New Zealand do what New Zealand does.
Yeah, but that's what happened though. New Zealand came out. They were they were up 21-3 at halftime. And then, but in the second half came around. Australia came back. They were only down by 4 points. It was 21-17 at one point.
Yeah, but Greg.
And then New Zealand took the drop kick, made it 24-17, and Australia had a chance to put one in, but like I said, they lost it due to a knock-on. And like I said, it's the little things that they couldn't perfect that a team like New Zealand does that just couldn't get them past them. And eventually, they turned the ball over, and what am I saying? And New Zealand took the ball back, scored a try. And
No, you're right.
And went up, and that was the end of the game.
but I mean, I don't know. I just see players such as like Dan Carter. I mean, my father was like a big fan of him. He just could not stop talking about the man.
Yeah, he had a
incredible player, phenomenal player.
He had a fantastic boot.
And just like him with the matchup with Sonny Bell Williams, and just see him across the field against Quade Cooper, and all these certain players, it's just like, wow, you really get to see legends do what legends do, and it's just like, what would you really have like? I mean, I don't know. It's just like everything that could have happened, and anything that could have gone wrong for Australia went wrong. But I mean, when you go back and you look at Argentina, you see how they just, it just wasn't working out for them when they were playing New Zealand, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. I really would have liked to seen them match up against New Zealand. I really liked to seen them play, and I think during pool play, you kind of sense that because it's just like, well, we know what's gonna happen. We know that New Zealand's just gonna dominate, and it's sad, but it's just the way they went.
Yeah, New Zealand ran through their pool. They had no problems at all. There wasn't one. I mean, there was one close game where Argentina actually did give them a little bit of a good game, but Argentina did give them a good game until halftime, and then they pulled away a little bit. Not too much, but definitely pulled away. But no, besides that, New Zealand was very much pretty dominant this whole tournament.
I mean, what would you say would be one of the biggest critiques that you want to give? I mean, like you really can never blame it on the ref, but you can always see that the referee has. And I'm not saying that you should directly blame the ref, but you definitely have to consider that they control the pace of the game. They control some of the calls that they see and what happens. And then you have referees such as Nigel Owens that just bring up such a class act, such phenomenal rugby, and just such a renowned respect for the sport. And I think that reflected just throughout all of America when it came down to like what kind of rugby we really wanted to see. So, I mean, like, what would you say would be the biggest contributor to any flaws that you would have seen in pool play, the preliminaries up to the World Cup, and the World Cup itself?
I thought it all ran pretty smoothly. I thought everything was... I didn't really see too many big problems. I mean, like, yeah, don't get me wrong, you're going to miss a call here or there.
Yeah, of course.
That's just going to happen. But in all seriousness, off the top of my head, I think everything in this World Cup went rather smoothly. And everything that all the critics are saying online and whatnot, along the lines of the event itself and running it as an event and running it as a business. Apparently, it all went 100% smoothly. I don't think there was any flaws. At least from the face, from what the average consumer can see, I don't think there was anything.
No, I mean you're right. But I don't know. I mean,
I wish I would have saw Japan go a little bit farther after they beat South Africa.
Japan would have been an awesome matchup. But I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of I don't know. It just seemed like, for me, from a standpoint, like I thought there were some good referees, like, but one that really struck out to me was the Scottish one that, and we remember talking to you about this a while back.
Yeah, he called a knock on. What game was it?
I think it was Scotland.
It was Scotland, South Africa.
Yeah, and I think that was the biggest determiner as to whether or not he was not going to be in the World Cup or not. I think he might. Might have been a sideline judge, but I think Nigel Owens always had that spot on lock. Just regardless.
That wasn't Nigel Owens refereeing that game. I forget who
No, I know, but I'm just saying
I forget who the lad was that was.
The World Cup on lock. There was no chance of him having an.
What happened was he called a knock on against Scotland, but then eventually he turned it into a penalty knock on, and a lot of the reviews didn't show too much of a penalty at all to begin with. So
do you think that's a trouble from upstairs more so than just his direct decision itself?
No, not really, because once he makes that decision, that's final. That was more of him than anything. You can't really blame anyone else for not making that call or making that call.
Right, and I understand that, but it's just like, you have those people upstairs to really review that, and that's why you have that. I mean, even in the NFL, baseball. I mean, I don't know how much they do in baseball, but soccer definitely. You have those things upstairs just to really review those kind of certain plays. And and even that could have been a little bit more. Yeah, and even upside for the people upstairs.
And even for this Rugby World Cup, I saw it a lot, and a lot of people said it too around the world of rugby, that they use the TMOs way too much. You think? Yeah, they were using. There was one game I watched. They used it about 5 times in the first half, and it drawn a 40-minute half out to take. Maybe it took like an hour to play the first half. It was just unnecessary. A lot of stuff that they really shouldn't have went to the TMO for. I think they give too much liberty to the TMO. They give them a little too much of a right to say what they want. I mean, it's different compared to other sports. You see a sport like football, you see a sport like baseball or something like that. They can't go to the review the reviewer doesn't the person reviewing doesn't have any right to talk to the referee, but or whoever's officiating whatever sport we're talking about. But in rugby, the TMO, who's the television match official, who's the one who looks back at everything via replay, he has the right to phone. He has the right to
Call
chime
a friend.
in. Yeah,
to phone a friend.
He has the right. He has the right to chime into the referee and talk to him and tell him what he saw. And it's only for foul play.
No, of course.
But even that's a little too much.
But I mean, like, look at the sport as a whole. I mean, like, it's basically surrounded by the key components of fair play, good respect for the game, and respect to those judging of which going on. And I feel like to the player's standpoint, you're looking towards that referee. You're looking towards your sideline judges. You're looking for your coach even. I mean, I know we have a very rambunctious coach as to begin with, but it's just like, what could you see? I mean, well, here, I don't want to ask what can you see, but more so just like when it comes to such big determiners, it's just like, there's so many other standpoints that like you just don't know which one to really personify on, which one to really attack, and it's just, I don't know, I just don't see that from most American referees, and it's just like, how can we better bring over the international spectrum of things when it comes down to USA Rugby? I mean, you gotta be able to have a format when it comes down to that. I mean, like, you have the Premiership in England, you have such leagues in South Africa that need to be boosted up. I mean, how would you want to be able to promote refereeing? I mean, you as yourself as a referee, how do you see? How do you use yourself as a comparison on the international spectrum? Who, I mean, obviously, I would assume that you look up to Nigel Owens.
Yeah, no,
Nigel Owens just is a class.
He's a good guy.
I mean,
Definitely
one of my
a good guy.
favorite memories from the World Cup is just him bringing literally both teams all together and going, "Listen, boys, you need to start acting like gentlemen. You need to start acting like gentlemen, or I'll treat you like children, and I won't have any engagement in the scrum." I was just like, all right, Nigel,
Nigel Owens,
the man, and he needs to, honestly, I think him more so after retirement, for him, I would love to see him teach, like, refereeing, and just to have that assertiveness, just because confidence on the pitch is key. I mean, even when it comes to tackling, and I know there's a big dispute on just confidence in the tackles. I mean, like, you have to be able to understand that there's a danger in tackling, and I feel like that's just more personified in football more so than in rugby. But what would you have to say? I mean, like, and how you learn? I mean, I know you're an upcoming lacrosse. I know you're an up and coming referee that just started. I mean, you started off very confidently wanting to be a touch judge, but now you're going into more so the game aspect.
Yeah, well,
what made you want to do that more so?
Well, I realized that when you get to the higher levels, that not just touch judging, but being an AR, which is an assistant referee, which are the guys that run up and down the sideline, is that those guys also referee in the middle a lot. They are, especially during the World Cup, they recycle the referees through the middle and as ARs. ARs, yeah, you're still working when you're AR, but it's not as stressful. It's a little bit more laid back, but you still have to be into it. You're not doing as much running. There's not as much pressure on you.
I'd disagree, actually, that there's not enough pressure. I mean, like 10 yards back, offsides.
Yeah, but that's not.
You wouldn't argue that that's even just as tough?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's tough, but at the same time, it's not hard to do. It's just measuring length. It's not making the final decision on a call in the middle of the field right next to a bunch of
they help.
6'7", 260-pound guys that just want to beat you up after the stupid call you made. But that's a different story. And you know what, Patty?
But hold on, but just to reinforce that, that's different off the pitch. Once the final whistle blows, there's nothing but respect for each side of the player.
Yeah.
And you see that.
And I was even going to go back to just correct myself and say there's this one really cool article I always see floating around online. And it's a little blurb that talks about why rugby players are different from any other athletes. And what this one says in one sentence, all it says is that when the 6'5", 275-pound South African got penalized, he stood up, looked at the referee, and said, "Sorry, sir."
No, and you're right. And I think I actually posted a photo a while back of talking about, you just see these two guys, like, it's obviously it's a political comic. Oops, I said politics. Better get out.
Get out. Leave. Back out. I'm not talking about politics.
But you just see these two grizzly. One's a New Zealand player, and you see the other one's just South Africans, and you just see him going, "Oh, what a beautiful game we just had. It was a joy. It was a pleasure sharing with you." And then the South African goes, "Oh no, the pleasure was all mine." And I couldn't help myself but laugh. But that's so true. And I mean, me myself, I'm one of the dirtiest players on the field. I mean, I think over the years I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, you're a pain in the butt to referee.
I think I've gotten a lot better on the field. But I mean, you just look at it and you're just like, wow. You know, for me more so, I mean, just watching more rugby, I go, I can't be doing that. And I keep looking back towards that USMC game I played, and I was just completely trash talking the ref. I wasn't having any respect for the man. Just because he was missing calls, having no respect. I mean, from my standpoint, wasn't having any respect. And I kick myself in the butt every single time just thinking about it, because it's just like, regardless of his calls, regardless of his demeanor on the field, you have to show respect for the referee. You have to condone whatever the man does and whatever the man says. And it's just like, come on, man. It's just the rate of the game, the pace that he is. And that's kind of why I asked her, like, can you really blame the referees? But I mean, how would you go about that? I mean, I know you're not a perfect referee, and how do you combat something like that when you have such a trash talking player? And I think that's more predominant in the American form of rugby. I mean,
yeah,
talking back to the ref. I mean, how do you combat something like that?
The thing about rugby over here in the States is that a lot of the guys that we get to play rugby come from other sports. And when rugby is first taught to kids and overseas, and they're first starting to learn how to play, a lot of it is learning about sportsmanship and how you're respectful on the pitch and how you treat people, the other team, and how you treat the referees. But in American sports, that's not very emphasized as much as in football.
Why do you think
basketball.
That is? I always
it's because they're trying to focus on winning, and they're trying to focus on making a good team. They're not focusing on.
Become more of a business than a sport, more of a game.
Yeah, they're not focusing on the aspect of the aspect of trying to further people as people through playing the sport.
Right.
Where in rugby, that's really a big concern when it overseas and stuff like that.
No, and I get that, but I mean, I don't know. It irks me. It irks me to see some players that do that. And you know what? And that's why I said earlier, like, ever since that game, I stopped. I couldn't do it anymore. It was ridiculous. I mean, yeah, there's Chauncey stuff that you do in the scrum, in the ruck, in mauls, whatever it be. I mean, and I'm pro on it. I'm very, very keen on it. But more so, it's just like I think player-to-player contact, when it comes down to that, that's a whole another dispute. I mean, and that's just something off of like just class act type deals. I mean, it just all depends on, all right, was that the smartest thing to do? And I don't know. It just irks me to see players do that sometimes. You even get on a full-fledged fight. It's just like, well, I understand that sometimes that happens. Sometimes it does. But I just don't see that being, you know, the all-in determiner for most people. It's it's disgusting most of the time, you know? I don't know. I mean, I guess my question to you is, I mean, and I'm going to be honest with you, you haven't played for very long as a player. You were not very long as a player, but I was talking to James Daly, and he had a friend that never even played the sport at all, and now he's a referee for the game, and he says he's never found a sport just as he's never found a sport that he loves more than rugby.
And I think that's a really good way to go about it, is if you want to pick a sport to referee, and pick a sport you know nothing about, because then you're going to learn everything about the sport from a referee's standpoint than from a player standpoint. That's what I feel. I feel like I've learned a lot about rugby from the referee standpoint, and learning a lot about the laws and about how the game is supposed to go. But when it comes to strategy, I would not be able to coach a team. I wouldn't know. No. I wouldn't be able to.
Really?
I just wouldn't be able to do it. I don't know.
So is that like a totally different mindset that you have to go into it? I mean, like as in coaching, as to the refereeing. I mean, what do you see? I mean, like, what do you look at when you see a game? Do you see pattern of play, or do you see more so, here's his flow, I need to call the whistle. Here he did this, but I'll let that slide.
The thing they try to teach you when you become a rugby referee is what they try to teach you is that you're not more officiating the game, you're more of conducting the game, and you're more of making sure that the flow of the game is going smoothly, and that's what you want. If there's something going on that's taking away from the flow of the game, that's when you blow it up and stop play and address whatever needs to be addressed. The thing is that you need to remember that as a referee, you're the only one out there. You have the final say, so whatever you say goes. So whatever you say, you just gotta stick with it. You just gotta go with it. Even if you think it's wrong after you do it, just do it. And if someone tries to talk to you, you just say, "If I got it wrong, sorry, but that's my call."
Exactly, and I think that's something. I mean, we all make mistakes, and I always laugh. I always think everybody makes mistakes. What song is that? Is that Miley Cyrus?
I don't know.
And everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. I don't know. I always laugh because that's what goes off in my head because it's like it's so true, and it's as ridiculous as it may sound. Just to quote a Hannah Montana song, it's so true. It's ridiculous, but it's so true. And you have to look at rugby as a whole, and you have to see that, all right, referee's going to make mistakes. You got to blow it off. You got to go to the next hit. You got to forget whatever mistake you made and think about the next step. Because in life, we all make mistakes, and those mistakes can be the determiner of whether or not you make $500,000 or $1 million. If you're going to have a Bugatti or you're going to have a RAV4, It's just, I feel like rugby teaches so much more than just the sport itself because you learn how to really, because I mean, like when it comes to
but it's only when the players accept that they're trying to learn more than just the sport.
Exactly, and I think that's the biggest thing. You need to learn the community of rugby before, arguably I'd say you need to learn the community of rugby and the people you're gonna meet and the many people you're gonna meet and just all out what's gonna happen in such an environment because everyone comes from different walks of life to walk on that pitch. And it's something that people need to understand that, people are going to think differently of you and people are going to act differently against you based on how you play. And I know I have players that I hate back in Denver. I know I have players that I absolutely cannot stand to look across the pitch. But I think that's the most encouraging portion of it, that I know I need to be better than that guy. And I need to wake up, like literally, for lack of a better word, urinating excellence. You really need to be able to be on that standpoint. You shake your head, but that's the best thing about rugby is that you need to compete till you have no more competition left in you. And I think that's just what's such a beautiful aspect of the game. It's just it teaches you so much more than what your own club has to offer. And I don't know. I see that more so celebrated on an international scale because even with the instance of Sonny Bill Williams, I don't know if you saw when there was a kid that ran out on the field and he gave him his medal, had known nothing about the kid, known nothing whatever that kid was doing, but he just knew that he would appreciate that medal more than he would having it hanging on his wall. Did you read that article at all?
No, I didn't. I didn't even see that.
Yeah, you didn't see that? It was some kid ran out and this big Goliath man tackles the kid, and this kid's scrawny, And it was funny.
This was after the game?
Yeah, this was directly after the game. They were all getting to walk off the stage. And this kid just comes charging towards Sonny Bill Williams just to hug him, just to be a part of the All Blacks. And he gets tackled, and Sonny Bill Williams is like, no, this is fine. Like, let me talk to the kid. Let me see where's your family. Let me see what you're doing. And I think he gauged the field more, so to speak, and gauged why the kid ran out on the field, and was like, wow, this is something bigger to this kid than it is to me. So I think you deserve this medal more. And that, if you read the article, he says that it would mean so much more to this kid for years to come than it would be just sitting on my wall. I've already have the memories that I need with my team, growing and becoming a better player. And like, I don't need this medal to show off. I want this kid to be a part of it just as much as I was. And I think that's what the beauty of the game is. You put yourself, you put the team and the game and the lifestyle before yourself, and that's what the beauty of the teaching of is. And I see the commercial of the All Blacks when they go, this guy makes sure the team's prepared and ready for the game. This guy makes sure the team's hydrated enough. This guy makes sure that the team gets there on time. Do you know what the commercial I'm talking
I know
about?
the AIG one.
Yeah, the AIG one is like, and I was like, wow, this is exactly what rugby is. This every single small component contributes to the All Blacks and contributes to rugby as a whole. I don't know. I mean, what's your take on something like that?
It's just trying to reinforce that even if you're not a player, everything that everyone does towards a team that contributes is important. There's someone that needs to bring them water to make sure they're hydrated. There's someone that takes care of them for medical problems. There's someone that makes sure that the word gets out that they're there. There's somebody that makes sure that there's an event running for these games. Of course you need a team to have a rugby team and to have a program, but ultimately it's about what everybody thinks about the team and how everyone else around it contributes to the success of the team. For example, for our homecoming game against Army, we had such a great atmosphere, and with that atmosphere, I think it really did help us give us the push over that win over Army. I think having everybody there, having the chills going through everyone, the place was crowded, packed to the max.
I mean, not even being a starter, running out on that field through that tunnel, literally just seeing Army across from us, just going nuts on the sideline. I felt more a part of the team than a play. I mean, like than having need to be on the field. And there's always those players that say, "Well, we won the starting 15 won that game," and I'm like, no chance. Like B-side goes up against you every single day, and we whoop on you too. We score tries on you guys.
Exactly.
Well.
You need the guys to in practice. If you're not in the starting 15, you need the guys to practice for practice. So the starting 15 does have someone to play against, and without that team to play against, you can't play against anyone, and you're gonna not be able to play against anyone until you get to an actual game.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I that's why I love rugby, and I've been doing a series of posts on Facebook that just say this is rugby, and that's the best way to put it. I mean, like, you can say All Blacks rugby, you can say Australia rugby, you can say South Africa rugby, but nothing beats rugby. It's just like that all around demeanor. It's the soldier's creed. I like to think of it as, because it's just like, all right, nothing will beat the beauty of what just going day in, going day out, of just seeing these guys, ruck over, maul over. It's just the beauty of it, and it's beautiful chaos, as most people say it, because it's a gentleman's game played by gentlemen. Well, no,
I thought that sounded right.
I think that sounds right. It's either that. No. It's a barbarian. I don't know. I forgot the saying, but it just really personifies, like, all right, this is rugby. That's the best way to say it. This is rugby. And I think you really nailed it on the head when it came to homecoming. I mean, what could you just elaborate more about the atmosphere?
Yeah.
So, I mean, because you as a VP, I mean, and I'm sure as myself as a vice president as well, just what do you mean by the ambiance? What do you mean by what was going on? Like, what do you directly see when you talk about just the chills that came through most of the game?
No, it was absolutely incredible. The place was packed the whole game. We were
and even for the B-side game, we lost, and it was still packed for the B-side game.
Yeah, there's still a decent amount of people there for the B-side game, at least for the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Towards the end, it started getting a little cold that day. Yeah.
But just elaborate a little bit more on the ambience.
It was just such a great atmosphere, having everybody there, having all of Iona's front office see us playing. Everyone who helped contribute running towards organizing homecoming, seeing us play, and not only seeing us play, but seeing us play against the number 4 team, and not only seeing us play against the number 4 team, but seeing us beat the number 4 team, which really gives an example of how far we've really come after losing to Army last year or 2 years ago, 75-0, losing to them by a single try last year. I think the final score was 21-14.
And you got to give it to Bruce. He called it. He said, "We're gonna beat you next year. We're definitely." And I'm like, "Come on, Bruce! Like, this is the Army, man." Like,
yeah, no,
I don't know. I had my doubt. I had the very minuscule amounts of doubt going into that.
I just had a good feeling.
Yeah, and you know what? I think come game day, I was like,
we have never lost a homecoming game.
I know. And
never lost a homecoming game.
I think that's just the creed of our school. I think that's just what we are. That's what we do. And it's just. That's why we do it. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a beautiful thing.
I think it don't get me wrong, nothing against football as a sport at this school or anything like that, but it does definitely help that we don't have a football team.
Oh, easily, and it helps that we don't have a men's lacrosse team. And I know you hate that I say that.
I know, but
I mean, come on, what else? I mean,
yeah.
I
think a men's lacrosse team wouldn't do too much to this team. A football team would definitely affect it a little bit, but getting back to my point is that people like watching sports where they just beat the crap out of each other and they hit each other and they want to try to kill each other, and rugby's got that without stopping like football. And so I mean, rugby's definitely an available substitute to football. Watching wise and playing wise, I refereed. I was an AR for Old Blue and Mystic River last week at Columbia University, and some of the guys from Old Blue were telling me how they played football for Columbia,
right?
Division I football for Columbia. Now they're playing rugby, and for one of the best club teams around nowadays.
And you know what? That happens ever so often. I mean, and then of course it happens the opposite way around too. I mean, like, you see guys that go, well, like, I'm going from rugby to football just because that's where the money is. And I'm like, God dang. Like,
It's the truth, though.
It's so true. But then you look at players like Dan Carter. He's the highest paid player, but deservingly. Like, he's more highly paid than any any rugby player in the game. And it's just like, wow, that's phenomenal. But it's just, you look at that and it's like, well, he makes just as much as like the crappiest soccer player out there, And it's just like, oh, at least he makes a living. But at least there's money in the game. I think that's what's so beautiful about it. At least there's money in the game.
In rugby?
Oh, yeah. At least there's money in the game, especially on the World Cup.
Not a lot, but there's definitely some.
I was talking to a good friend of mine. We called him Peacock. We just called him Peacock. I don't really know the good reason, but he played out in Wales, and he was a big. I see him on Facebook. He was big on trying to get Wales to come out. Big on trying to get Wales to come out and like be the number one, trying to make him win. And he was telling me about his time over there, and he's just like, yeah, but like there'd be clubs that like, hey, we need an extra scrum half. You wanna come out and play for Wales? Like, it's like, yeah, well, throw in a T-shirt, throw in my bar tab, and pay me $50. And they're like, word, show up. And he'd show up, play a good game, and then go home and have $50 in his pocket and a good bar tab. Because all of those clubs, their home pitch, not only do they have a clubhouse, the clubhouse consists of the clubhouse where they can do like independent parties or whatever, but there's also a bar on the side. And I think then you got to look at it and go, well, all right, so is this a drink? It's just, does our drinking team have a rugby problem, or does our rugby team have a drinking problem? And it's just like, no, it's what we do.
Yeah.
It's what we do.
Yeah, no, after I referee games, even around here, they always invite me to go out to the bar. I can't. I'm not 21. Okay, let's get this legal side off of it.
Yeah, but there's always those.
But no, it's great. I see people I know that I've met through refereeing. I see people all the time, and everyone's always just so nice. Everybody is always just so inviting. Even the teams get together to drink afterwards. No matter how much they hated each other during the game, they get together at the local bar to watch whatever.
And
games.
And that's most of the time when most of those resolutions get settled. I mean, it's like, all right, you got to be a gentleman on and off the pitch, but whatever happens on the pitch, you have to deal with off the pitch.
Yeah, exactly.
And
but they invite the referee to go drink with them.
Yeah, and that's the best part.
I don't. I'm not 21.
But you know what? I think the way Bruce combated that by having food after the game, and I know that has been a tradition coming before him, and I think that's just I think that was just really like something. That was
Yeah, no, that's great. We definitely have a lot of parents that really support us a lot too, and they're the ones that we really need to thank for all that food afterwards. Yeah, don't get me wrong. We'll set up the tables for them and stuff, but they're the ones who's setting up all the food and cooking it and everything, and it all just always tastes so good.
Oh no, it's so good.
Then again, it is free too, which is always good food to a college kid.
I mean, especially being in college, you can't say no to free food.
Yeah, exactly.
I always have trouble eating after a game. I don't know what it is, but no, it's ridiculous because it's just like, wow, these people like don't know who I am, but they feed me.
Yeah.
But that's just rugby. We'll just kind of switch a little paces. We're gonna take a short break. We'll be back to you after this short little message from whatever sponsors I may have, which are none. But hey, if you want to sponsor our radio show, this is WICR in the basement of La Penta. I am your host, Patrick McGuire. The GridIron will be back just shortly.